Cousin games. Have you heard of them? You've probably played one. Now, I didn't come up with this name, so I'll let them explain it, and then I'll explain it. I'll also explain it. So you're going to have two explainers.
I have a name for the forgotten, forgettable, off-brand, off-axis games of our youth. I call them cousin games. Army Men, Sarge's Heroes, Uniracers, Rise of the Robots. The best way to get into the cousin game mindset is to imagine being dropped off at a house that smells different from how you think a house is supposed to smell, and then you go into a room with a guy who's kind of like a weird version of you, and he's playing Nintendo, which you understand, but then you look at the screen and you're like,
oh my gosh. How were you born under such privilege where your parents can afford to take risks on deeper video games not featured in IGN reviews? Rest in peace, IGN. Rest in peace, IGN. I meant to say Game Informer. I don't know. I just kind of got caught up in the moment and I misspoke. I said something I shouldn't have, and that's my bad. But effectively, cousin games are games that you could ask your cousin, hey man, or hey girl, why do you own that? Like, what made you buy that game? And listen, cousin games are obviously not necessarily bad games. For example, PsyOps, in my opinion, this is a cousin game that you should have owned. You weren't alive at the time when this game came out. You're basically like a psychokinetic, telekinetic soldier. But at the time, the TK physics and gameplay were incredible. I don't know how it holds up now, but it's a really good game, really good game. Another example would be a really old one called Negro Machines. Negro Machines. Why did I say that? Negro Machines. That's not what it's called. Why did I say that, though? I'll have to think about that. Called Micro Machines. I genuinely don't know how you're supposed to play this game without having some type of clairvoyance. The camera is so tight on your race car, and there's not really enough warning as to what direction you're going in next. I don't know how you're supposed to play this game without having X-Men level reaction times. Another cousin game would be the Super Nintendo Aladdin, where you, unlike the Sega Aladdin, where you're given a sword, the SNES Aladdin, probably more lore accurate, you're given apples, but this game was pretty weird. It's pretty weird. So if you're still like, man, I don't really get it, these are really fun games that I loved playing as a kid, and my parents worked really hard to earn enough money for me to have these games. How about Pod Racer? You heard that sound, that thud when the pod hits the ground? Whatever vehicle you're in, based on that sound, there should be nothing left. This is the flagship cousin game. Nobody was supposed to own this game. Not only that, if you show up to somebody's house, your cousin or maybe just a friend you kind of know, and they have this and not much else, the boredom, that sensation of like, crap, I'm stuck here for 6 hours, that panic, that's cousin games. Kind of. I have a thesis, but we'll get there. Another great example of a cousin game was Fusion Frenzy on Xbox. Now, I believe this game came out when Mario Party was popping off. Like, it was known that there is a superior party game available. So if you showed up to your homie's house and he's got an Xbox, which, listen, I know Xbox had cuts, but this console, it was cousinish. It was a little bit cousiny. That said, if for some reason they had Fusion Frenzy, like, you know, you're not getting the best. Like, it's not going to be the most fly hangout. Like, we're not doing the most fun thing we could be doing. I might go home early because this is kind of boring. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that, again, it's that feeling of, like, minor dread that I think is a major component of cousin games. Now, somebody wrote, can we declare Dreamcast as the official cousin console? First of all, how dare you? How dare you? Now, what I'm about to say might put me in a league of my own, female baseball team style. I might be in my own class. I think that people might think that the Dreamcast is a cousin console because it was so hard to get a hold of a Dreamcast. Furthermore, it was so hard to like get games on Dreamcast that you didn't have to import and then stick that weird disc in first that you take out and then put the imported game in just so you could play some Dreamcast games. So if you managed to do this, I feel like if you had a Dreamcast and you actually played it, you you were kind of a luxury gamer. Like you really like video games because you had to put in effort just to play Dreamcast. I would also add that the Dreamcast is no weirder than the Nintendo 64. In fact, I think the 64 is the real cousin console. Full disclosure, I'm a little bit of a Nintendo hater. But as much as I can put my bias aside, I feel like 64 is the real weird console. But listen, we don't have time to litigate that. Different subject. But 8,000 people seem to agree, and that's a pretty good sample size, that the Dreamcast is in fact the summation of what it means to be a cousin whose house I'm not looking forward to spending time at because you have a lot of weird games. I just can't help but feel, is it fair that Sega's only crime, Sega Dreamcast, was not being Sony and not being Nintendo? But listen, here's why I don't trust those 8,000 people. If Dreamcast's only crime is just having weird games, fine. So shoot me. But let's look at what Dreamcast did provide. Do you remember that when Ikaruga left the Japanese arcade, you know where it landed? Not Nintendo 64, couldn't be 64. It landed on Dreamcast. This game is just badass. This game is just badass. Now, this kind of works against me a little bit because this game is weird. Not only is it weird, it was, at least I remember, this game was kind of not fun. But JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, very much part of the culture nowadays if you're into this kind of thing. What console's going to give you this? What console's going to give you this? Dreamcast is an important piece of history. And to relegate it to cousin games, console, cheerleader, or champion, I don't think so. Nah, not on my watch. Mark of the Wolves, if you play fighting games, this game was amazing. I feel like if you didn't have a Dreamcast and you love fighting games, you missed out a little bit. But I feel like most people that love fighting games did end up with a Dreamcast. Or had a cousin with one. Now, I think this is, life to date, one of the most overrated games. And if you weren't around when this game was hot, this will be lost on you a little bit. But people really love this game. And I think this is one of the most like, hey, I'm sleepy, but I can't quite fall asleep. Will you turn on Power Stone? I'm going to play it for a little bit. And I should be out. You know what I'm saying? Like, this game was just not good. Rival Schools, incredible game. Kind of in the similar genre of like Street Fighter EX, another weird game. And yeah, Street Fighter EX is definitely a cousin game. This game is not. This game is just fun. How could you deny Skies of Arcadia? This game is just cute. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Super Magnetic Neo. I'm just laughing because I remember when my friends and I were greatly anticipating the release of, well, to be honest, not this game. I hadn't heard it until this video, actually.
Uh-oh, little guy. Better have a doctor take a look at that.
Anyways, remember Sonic Shuffle? Sonic Shuffle. It was like the filet mignon of Mario Party. It was the game that Mario Party got us ready for. It was kind of like everything you loved about Mario Party, strip most of that away, replace it with characters that at the time were second tier. I know Sonic is a little more popular now in retrospect, but he kind of was, unfortunately, second banana to Mario. That's just the way it was. I don't like it. I don't agree with it, but that's the way. I kind of agree with it. I mean, look at this mini game. You're hopping on. Yeah, this. Yeah, this is definitely a cousin game. Hey there, Knuckles. You're looking a little husky. Why don't you stay away from the chili dogs for a little bit? Leave those to Sonic. His metabolism seems to process it a little bit better. Now, Super Runabout. This one was for fans of games like Driver or Grand Theft Auto, high-speed games that have you thinking on your toes with a unique Japanese twist. Get the lettuce, the game demands of you. Get the hot dog, left, 1. For some reason, the police are after you while you're trying to compose a sandwich. If there's one thing Japan's gonna do, they're gonna be weird. That's just what they provide to the planet, and we love them for it. But I almost feel like this game eclipses Cousin Game, and it's just like it crosses over into something that I don't even have a category for it. Japanese games, I guess. Dreamcast is the Japanese games console. I don't know. My wife just said the pictures of the foods on the side. Yeah, I don't understand ×3, and then you just run down the hot dog stand to accomplish the next part. This, you saw that invisible vehicle we just broke through, and oh my gosh, where Pod Racer disappointed us and failed miserably, in comes Zusar Vasar. Now I don't know what you define as a rolling start. I wouldn't call this a rolling start. If you're literally not touching the ground, your vehicle has no wheels, and you're being carried by birds, not a rolling start. That's not what I think. Rolling start. This game, I guess it's a low bar to be better than Pod Racer, but I do see that Dreamcast saw the need and filled the niche. So, you know what? At least I'm starting to see why people call Dreamcast the cousin console. I didn't start out this way, but I'm kind of seeing it now. So I said I had a theory, and I think now was a great time to propose it. If you had Air Border 64 instead of SSX Tricky,
Asterisk 1080 snowboarding. This is not SSX Tricky.
and you had Chameleon Twist 2, these are all 64 games, instead of Mario 64, but for some reason you had Ocarina of Time, are you the cousin? Like, at what point do you cross the threshold of, like, you just like weird games? I feel like it's the abundance of cousin games that turns you into this proverbial cousin. There's a quasi-sad reality to cousin games. I sometimes feel sad for younger gamers that just because they weren't born during a certain time, there's some games that will either be insanely hard to get a hold of or they just won't be able to play them at all. And I wonder, like, should art be like that? Should art pass out of existence? And I would love to know from you in the comments, are there modern cousin games? Like, I only use Steam if I know I want something, but I don't browse the Steam library like that. But is there like a modern version of this? Because I wonder if consoles just lack the cousin game genre because it's so expensive to make video games, and if something flops, that could be the end of the company. And I just feel like this is kind of like a lost art. There's so many charming cousin games, and it sucks that they're just kind of lost to history, relegated to YouTube videos. And I think we've gotten to a point where people are so spoiled with graphics. I think they can tolerate the quality of some of these old games. You know, it's nostalgic. It's nostalgic. I don't know. I just this whole topic of games that are just like artifacts of history, I feel like they should be more accessible. Like, should artists making digital media, game designers, should their art one day die just because the parent company doesn't print it anymore, or it's not burning discs anymore? It just feels weird, you know? In an era where we can just we have records of everything. Why not video games? I don't know. It's a strange thing to ponder. But here we are. Thank you for watching. If you made it to the end, wow, I love you so much. Please subscribe if you like this type of content. I will certainly be delivering more to you. I hope you have an amazing night. I'll see you soon. Love you.